I'm the co-founder and chief technology officer for PhishMe. What that means is I'm in charge of our product technology roadmap, I'm in charge of our R&D efforts and our engineering teams, as well as the operations teams needed to pull off millions upon millions of phishing simulations. What you're in for, a lot of slides. Don't worry, if you see URLs or stats or statistics that you want to capture, the slides are going to be on the portal for this event, as well as I'm going to be uploading them to SlideShare. I hate it when I go into a presentation and the presenter doesn't cover what's in the abstract. That's not this presentation at all. I'm pretty much going to cover the abstract. We're going to examine, is phishing easy? I hear a lot of information security practitioners claim that it is. Then we're going to look at multiple data points, highlights from our enterprise security report. We're going to look at popular phishing themes, ones that our customers tend to use and they like to use. We're going to look at some statistics on how much time people spend on the education material once they fall prey to a phishing attack. And then we're going to try to explore the topic of why do people continue to fall for phishing. So first we're going to start with a tale of woe, the Office of Personnel Management. This was probably, in my opinion, one of the most impactful data breaches that we had to deal with last year. And anytime I hear about a breach, I'm always curious to know, was phishing involved? Was phishing involved? So I watched the C-SPAN testimony on the Hill, and they didn't say anything about phishing. But chances are, in this day and age, if there's a breach, phishing was somehow involved. So I got my hands on the CERT report. It didn't say this was the CERT report for the OPM breach, but the opening of the CERT report said, hey, here's a CERT report about indicators, about a breach that caused a large data loss. That's all that it said in the headers. So the idea behind a lot of these CERT reports is if we can get indicators to other business units, other parts of the government, they can look at their networks to find out if they were compromised. Well, like I said, the report didn't say this was about OPM. But inside of the indicators, and you might not be able to see those in the back, one that was interesting to me, some of the domains listed opmsecurity.org and opm-learning.org that the attackers registered. So chances are this probably is the CERT report related to that breach. Another thing that was interesting as I was going through the indicators that stood out to me was one of the indicators was a file, an executable, EasyPass Highlandville and a number.exe, and then invoice fish-malicious.pdf. So that analyst, when they put that in this, they renamed that file probably just to organize their tasks. So what that says to me is this is probably the CERT report about the OPM breach. These are indicators probably related to that breach. And most likely, it was phishing that was the initial attack vector that caused that breach. So the verbiage around this breach was these were advanced attackers. They got in. It was a nation state. But when I see EasyPass as one of the indicators, one of the things that immediately I think about is, and if you live on the East Coast, you're familiar with the EasyPass toll system, is it was this fish. This theme has been around and it's been plaguing consumers for 3 to 4 years. So these advanced actors, military state-sponsored actors, they didn't necessarily put a whole lot of effort into the phishing email needed to compromise those employees. They went with what works, which was scaring those employees to think that they may have received a toll pass violation. So the DHS response to this was interesting. Again, there was no admission publicly that this was a phishing incident at all. In fact, the congressman grilled OPM about not encrypting the data. But a few weeks later, the DHS started to put out a response to this. And basically, one of the heads of the DHS said that we're going to pull credentials of anyone that fails a phishing test. And another message from the government was, well, we're going to do a security awareness phishing campaign. And it's going to feature short videos and posters and literature on the do's and don'ts for better security hygiene. And as a citizen who had his data stolen in this breach, I'm like, oh, no, this is really not going to help out, and we're going to look at reasons why. So the testimony on this was frustrating, to say the least. But yeah, we definitely got some more information from the DoD. I mean, people that received copies about their data being breached. And the ways that the government planned to address this was a 30-minute phishing awareness video and computer-based training program. So like the dude says down there, yeah, that's not going to work. Let me jump back into my background. I've been doing information security for a long time. One of my most memorable positions is when I started as a consultant for Foundstone in 2002, which was later acquired by McAfee. And I did a lot of incident response and penetration testing in those years, but also a thing that we did as part of, at Foundstone was we delivered this ultimate hacking class to hundreds of information security professionals over the year. And it was based on methodologies that we would publish in our Hacking Exposed books. And the idea was you become a better network defender by learning how the way that people break into networks. So throughout that time, I've met a lot of information security engineers, and I began to understand how they think about network attack and defense. And most of the time, they're really thinking about configuration management, patch management, and that sort of thing, and they're rarely thinking about the user's impact on a security ecosystem. One of the classic debates that I get into with my colleagues when I suggest that trying to make our humans more resilient against phishing is actually a worthwhile endeavor is this little retort. But it only takes one fish to compromise a network, so why even put any effort into the human? So that's something that I encounter quite often. So I want to examine that thought. Is phishing easy? Is phishing easy for an attacker? So let's look at all the phases that they need to pull off in order to successfully phish an organization. They have to start with recon. They have to find email addresses. They have to find relationships inside of that organization. Oftentimes they're mining social networks in order to get that. They then have to get weaponization of some sort of payload to work. So they have to figure out the operating systems that their target victims have. They have to tune something that will get past filters and firewalls and URL analysis and sandbox. So they have quite a bit to do. They usually need to obfuscate that code so they can bypass traditional AV. So a lot of their effort goes into the recon and the weaponization to prepare for a phishing attack. But they're not done yet. Now they have to deliver it. So that means sending an email campaign to deliver the work that they've prepared for that phish. So they have an entire infrastructure ready to receive outbound connections if their phish is successful, but now they still have to get that email in. And that is actually getting more difficult for those attackers. It used to be that they would register random domains and use different vhosts in order to send phishing emails. The trend that we're observing is many of them are choosing to send phishing emails from Gmail, from Hotmail, from Yahoo. And the reason why is they know that that's mail infrastructure that is difficult for you to block. And those mail providers, they all have proper SPF, they all have proper DKIM, so they increase the chances of getting that phish into that organization. So that's something that they have to consider. Another thing the phisher has to consider is the time of day. The most exploitable platform is a Windows platform with tons of plugins installed. One of the most resilient platforms is a mobile platform. So if you're doing all of that reconnaissance and preparing a payload, you need that phishing email to hit an office worker when they're likely sitting in front of their Windows computer. You don't want that phish to hit them at night when they're more likely to use a mobile phone to review it. Okay, so now we have to get that exploit to land. And so there's a number of different defenses and things that an organization might have to detect that, to stop that breach. And so they have to worry now. Even if they are successful in breaking in, now they have limited time to expand influence on the network, plant black doors, and hopefully begin to exfiltrate data out, which is even difficult for them. They know that they can have their breach discovered if they're not careful about the data exfiltration. So there's a lot that they need to consider in order to be successful at a phish. So when they're put all of that together, they really put a lot of effort into the phishing email. For instance, here's a phishing email that advanced attackers are sending to your employees at work. They're letting employees know that, hey, we've had a problem during the Halloween season of employees wearing inappropriate costumes at work. And so we want everyone to have fun this Halloween. And in order to make sure that we're having fun and still within the acceptable guidelines, we're going to have you click this gallery of acceptable Halloween costumes at work. Something that we would all want to click on, right? What is acceptable? What's not acceptable? Here's another one that advanced attackers are using all the time. We have a lunch thief in the break room. In order to combat this, what we're doing is we put a webcam, and we will allow any employee to connect either from a home office or remote office to monitor the webcam to see if their lunches are getting stolen. Would employees click this? Yeah. Maybe they're the ones stealing lunches. Maybe they're the ones having their lunches stolen. Maybe they're just voyeurs and they want to see someone stealing a lunch. Maybe they're connected to a remote office. These two examples, they're actually not made by advanced attackers at all. These are Phishing simulations. Because we like to, have a little fun and try to think about emotional triggers that will get an office worker to click. The reality of what advanced attackers are really using are examples like that OPM breach, just tired, reused content over and over again. Or here's an example of a crimeware breach. It's an incoming fax report. Click here to open up the attachment. The reason why they're not putting a lot of effort into the content of their phishing emails is because their operation is complex. They have a lot that they need to do. And so what they do, it's kind of a numbers game for them. They just pull a phishing template off the shelf and they give it a go. And they send in a sufficient enough volume of phishing emails so that they get somebody to click. And this is really the state of things. The clever scenarios about refrigerator webcams and Halloween costumes at work, that's what companies that are doing simulations are worried about. The reality is most attackers are reusing content. We'll look at a recent example. So ransomware is hot again. Locky, I thought crypto wall were things of the past, but there's been a huge uptake in ransomware and cryptoware over the past 2 to 3 months. And we've done a lot of analysis, and here's an example of a very recent phish, March 10th, that was distributing Locky, and it's using some of the same tried and true methods again. It's about an invoice. I've attached an invoice for you to review. You open up the invoice, you click it, and unfortunately it starts encrypting files on your computer. One of the things that was interesting to us as we were observing this campaign is they are getting more sophistication in randomizing portions and content of the phishing email. So we're going to look at Locky briefly as well as a dire campaign. So this is, and I know this is impossible to read in the back, so I'll just explain it quickly. This is an example of 2 phishes that we caught in the wild that was directed at us, that our employees reported, and it was the same exact campaign. But one of the things that really stood out to us is it was highly varied in the body. The file names were changed, the sender names were changed, different numbers as far as invoice numbers, customer numbers, order dates. They were all different. And this kind of shows an uptick in the sophistication of crimeware actors that are sending phishing emails en masse. They're doing this to avoid different detections that you might have and really to evade different anti-spam technologies that you might have in place. But this one was a bit of a surprise to us, that the same campaign, the same day, had so many different variations embedded into the phishing body itself. So we looked at this campaign, and we had 1,200 different samples of it. And we noticed that of those 1,200 samples, it came from 700 different IP addresses. So the attackers, to deliver those 1,200 samples, had over 700 IPs under control. They had over 1,100 different domains to send these from. And they definitely did a lot of randomization. This really speaks to why Locky and ransomware is particularly damaging right now. The network that these guys are using to deliver these en masse is impressive. They have thousands of compromised hosts in order to pull this off. We'll look at another campaign, Dire. So most of these are being delivered by a cybercrime gang out of the Ukraine. Dire was a banking Trojan that if you installed it, it would attempt to get credentials from your browser. It would man in the middle of your browser. What we've observed is that same cyber gang has just moved to ransomware. So what they're doing is they're using the same network and hosts that they have, and they're just delivering a different attack right now. But what was alarming about this is we looked at 218 campaigns from Dire. We had 30,000 unique samples, and of those 30,000 unique samples, a single subject was used no more than a dozen times. So they definitely are rotating and randomizing their campaigns in order to maximize the efficiency for them. All right, we're switching gears a little bit here, and we're getting out of crimeware and current phishing trends. And I'm going to share with you some highlights from our Enterprise Phishing Susceptibility Report. There is an entire presentation about this on Bright Talk that's free to view, and you can get this report from us. But I just really want to cover some of the highlights because we have a lot of data and we're getting a lot of questions about this. And this might be useful to you if you're in charge of doing a phishing simulation program at your job and you had some similar questions and wanted to learn from some of the things that our customers are doing. So we really wanted to whittle down the sample size. We have a vast diversity in who our customers are. If you don't know about PhishMe and PhishMe simulations, it's a platform in order to send simulated phishing emails to people at work. 70% of our customers, they do this completely on their own. So we just cut them the account, and they have an idea of how they're going to use simulations in order to reduce the phishing problem at their organization. About 30% of our customers use our managed services in order to let us drive the entire experience and prescribe their next steps while they're using it. So in order to try to make this enterprise report more enterprise focused, what we did is we limited our analysis to organizations that were training at least 1,000 employees or more, because we wanted larger enterprises, and that have been using PhishMe for quite some time. So that's who we focused on for this study. And we asked several questions. We wanted to know if different themes or levels of complexities were more difficult for some employees to recognize. What were some of the motivational, emotional motivators that got people to click? And was there a difference for people that were on the job versus people at home and the type of phishing emails they might interact with? Does time of day influence the user's vulnerability? So we wanted to look at some of our customers that were running simulations in the morning versus the afternoon, and so on and so on. This report has all of that data. I just want to cover the key findings, since there's still quite a bit to cover. 87% of the employees open the phishing simulation the same day. And this is what I see when I'm reviewing our customers' reports. There's a huge spike, not only in the first day, but the first few hours of that phishing simulation going out, which makes sense. You know, a lot of people are on the spot with their email, and they do try to keep a clean inbox. Most employees are responding to phishing emails during the morning hours. So that might be maybe when they're a little more groggy or they have a lot to email to go through, so they're trying to do it in a little more of a rapid-fire method instead of methodical method. This next stat was interesting to me. 67% of people who fall prey to the phishing simulation are more likely to fall for another phishing attempt. So when we observed this and we saw it in our customers, we're like, well, that makes sense. You know, you tailor your program around the people that have demonstrated that they do have a vulnerability, that they need extra help here, and increase the frequency of simulations to that population. The next bullet point wasn't really a surprise. The most effective phishing emails for our simulations were themes that contain business communication. So you're at work, you're trying to get your job done. If you're getting a business communication-oriented phish, you're more likely to fall for that than one that's trying to give you an Amazon gift card or give you a discount to Home Depot or Lowe's or something to that effect. And then the last one that we observed is of that population that was demonstrating susceptibility, that it took about 4 simulations for them to fall in line with the rest of their peers. So yes, they were susceptible. They were 67% more likely to fall for the next phish. That metric kind of hung about that same level until they received their 3rd and 4th phish, where there was a dramatic decrease in that user susceptibility. What about themes and complexity? So we tried to organize our themes because there's quite a different templates inside of PhishMe that can use. And we wanted to see which ones people were more likely to fall for. So what we did is we organized them by office communication type emails, things about computer updates, employee wellness, and so on. And then some of the things that we consider when we're trying to evaluate a theme are, what is the context, personal versus home? What are the emotional motivators to get someone to click? Fear, reward, curiosity, entertainment, urgency. And then technical difficulty. So are there a lot of clues that this was a phish in the body of that email, or just 1 or 2? So theme averages and benchmarks. So like I mentioned, office communications had the highest susceptibility rate by average. And if we looked at a specific theme, the one that was really giving people trouble was files sent from a scanner. That is something that you might receive and you might be thinking, well, I didn't scan something, or maybe someone is trying to send something to me. It feels right in the context of your workday. What probably is no surprise is phishing themes about computer updates. They had the least efficacy as far as getting someone to fall for a phish. And if you look at the sample size and the demographics of this study, we did try to limit it to organizations with more than 1,000 employees. And it's highly unlikely an organization at that level has their employees manually installing patches for Flash or Adobe Reader or any of those things. So the data basically showed that too, is that those employees were more suspicious of that type of phishing email than the standard office communications. One of the questions that we wanted to do, and we have enough customers that we can do this now, is there any one market vertical that's particularly more vulnerable to another? And so we looked at package delivery type of scenarios. Our customers like to send out lots of package delivery scenarios. And there was a wide variance. We couldn't conclusively say finance is more vulnerable to package delivery or energy. And it probably really has to do with the likelihood of you to receive a package at work. So education stood out as one that was a little bit more vulnerable to package delivery scenarios. And maybe it is that the people in education, they do receive a lot of packages. They're excited to get a package. Whereas manufacturing was pretty low. Maybe it's highly unlikely that a line worker or someone is receiving a package at work. Not sure on that. Let's move into top emotional motivators. So as of the data that we analyzed, what's getting people to want to click? A connection is one. Do I know this person? Is someone trying to make a personal connection with me? Was there a name dropped in the body of the email? Was one. Reward was another one. Curiosity, urgency, and fear began to trail off. So, you know, an email that's faking to look like it's coming from your CEO or your boss or your VP, that might be one of the motivations that get people to click on average. Another thing I did is I went to our content team and I said, show me the most popular scenarios, so the ones that Phishing customers really like to use. And what that kind of does is show us which threats that they're worried about inside of their organization. And so what they did is they organized for me the average susceptibility, so the percentage of people that are on average that are falling for this type of simulation, and then the popularity amongst our customers. So like I mentioned here, package delivery is very, very popular. E-card alerts and unauthorized access. I want to kind of highlight that one. We'll look at that theme. It has a high percentage of people clicking on it, and it is very popular amongst our customers. Then I asked our content team, I said, I want to look at our most susceptible themes. So not necessarily the ones that our customers are gravitating towards and they want to do, but the ones that have demonstrated just a high percentage of susceptibility, but also show me how popular they are amongst our customers. Manager evaluation is the highest percentage as far as susceptibility, but it is not popular among PhishMe customers. And that's probably why. That might be just too much of an emotional trigger for someone to risk in a phishing simulation, a phishing email about a performance evaluation. Even though it is shown that it is, the employees are susceptible to it, it might be the people that are running the simulations, they don't necessarily want to risk their job faking some sort of HR type of process. Similarly, though, we're going to look at two different unauthorized access themes. One of them is unauthorized access, adult-oriented. It's 30% of people are falling for that, but it's a low popularity, and we'll look at why. And then unauthorized access, just regular, it's right up there. It's nearly 30% as well, but it is slightly more popular with our customers. So unauthorized access, 29% of people on average are falling for this. It is popular. The way that this phish works is it basically says, hey, we think your computer went to sites that it wasn't supposed to, but we understand that sometimes these systems are incorrect. If you want to log in and review the logs that we captured, go ahead and go to this portal and log in with your credentials, and you can see what triggered this alert. Another one that is very popular and has a high success rate is e-card alerts. You have a secret admirer at work. What? I have a secret admirer at work? Well, who is it? I'm married. Why would someone be my secret admirer? Well, this is weird. I want to click this and find out who this person is. Or, yes, I have a secret admirer at work. I want to click this and find out who it is. So this one is a popular scenario used by customers, and it does have a significant impact. And we do see this being sent out around Valentine's Day and other holidays. The one that I mentioned that is low popularity, but high rate is manager evaluation. And if you look at this template, it's a little hard to see. There are a lot of different mail merge type of features. And so dear insert name, so a personal connection. Here at our company, so it's a field that's automatically populated. Department. These are all things that an attacker could glean about your organization just by browsing LinkedIn. Your supervisor's name and company name. So it's no wonder why something like this really does get someone's attention. It looks like official communication, and it's something that makes that connection with someone and makes them want to click and interact with that email more. Unauthorized web use, low popularity. So this one is kind of upping the bar on the first one, which is, hey, we went to some sites that were categorized as adult material, but we understand that we can make some mistakes. So if you want to review that site, go ahead and log into this portal to check out those reviews. Again, not surprising that a lot of our customers avoid this. They don't want to necessarily create a heightened situation inside of their organization. They just want people to be less vulnerable to phishing. So, shifting gears here, we're going to get into creating phishing awareness. Like I said, I've dealt with a lot of information security professionals. And oftentimes, especially in the engineering and technical sides, they're baffled that why do people fall for phishing emails? These are obvious. Obviously, this isn't correct. And so we charge them with trying to do an awareness type of campaign, and most of them take us down this path. Well, in order to figure out phishing emails, what you got to do is you got to hover your mouse over the link, and then you got to read the link from right to left slowly, and then you're going to have one clue. And that's how a lot of engineers think that they're going to teach people on how to avoid phishing. And this is what our customers want us to build. So we build these templates, these education templates, and we color code them for them, and we say, okay, we'll make them for you. And we go to a lot of different awareness type of events. And one of the themes that I hear from a lot of awareness professionals is, if you just make the content more engaging, if you don't use Times New Roman and you use Verdana and you don't use Red and you hire an artist, that's the key. That is the key to getting people to look at your awareness material and stop fall for phishing. So I see a lot of security professionals just kind of whipping themselves thinking, if I was just better at art, I would get people to really look at my education and stop falling for phishing. So we get tons of requests from our content team, because most of our customers have some sort of security awareness role inside of their organization. Our customers want videos, they want infographics, they want static HTML, they want translated content. We do it all because that's what they want. And then we get feedback based on this content. And we're spending quite a bit of money. We probably spend $1.5 million a year on content creation, translation services, video animation, you name it. We put a lot of effort into this. So our customers told us that the bad guy in our training videos was too Chinese looking. So we had to go and redo that and make him look less Chinese. So that was expensive, but we got it done. We have a superwoman in our videos that are like, hey, you did it. You found the fish, and this is how you report it. Ooh, yeah, she's too alluring. Can you make her less alluring? I'm like, really? I mean, was it the cape? What is it? She's just too alluring. Just tone her down. We're like, okay, we're going to go ahead and remaster that video and then get it retranslated into all of the languages to make her less alluring. Oh, God, your scenarios are too American. Excuse me, what? Yeah, we don't like the dub over. What? So you want us to redub all the narrations in our videos with a British accent? Yep, please do that. Okay, if you think this is the key to getting people to stop falling for phishing, we're going to go ahead and do that. Our shortest video is 27 seconds. Our longest video is about 3 minutes. And these things are tailored to the experience that just occurred. So if it was an attachment-based phish, guess what? The video is about attachment phishing, and so on and so forth. Time spent on education. So we run a piece of JavaScript to count how many seconds people spend consuming this content that we spend a lot of money on, that's not too sexy, not too Chinese, not too alluring, and not too American. And the vast majority of people are spending less than 9 seconds. So they just fell for a scenario, and they're spending between 0 and 9 seconds to review this content. Well, that's concerning, especially if your job is security awareness. But is it, though? So one of the things that we observe across our data is it doesn't matter. The susceptibility rates are going down. It doesn't matter that they're spending 9 seconds on the video. The evidence is right there. It's in that susceptibility report. But why? Why is it that it's going down? Not only is the susceptibility rates improving, but the rate of user report and the accuracy and speed of those employees reporting these simulations is going up. Our customers really tend to focus on the susceptibility data. They're not necessarily, they really want to drive that down. So they're a little disheartened when they're doing their campaigns and things are driving down, and then all of a sudden there's a spike in April. Like, what happened? Well, then we look at their content and we're like, well, you chose a more advanced scenario. You sent it to a population that hasn't had as much exposure to it. And you've been traditionally doing click-onlys, and this one was an attachment-based scenario, so that's to be expected. One of the trends that our customers don't always notice, but we do try to help point it out to them, is this is a hard thing to measure. If you want to be data-driven, you can just send the same type of scenario over the course of the year, and you're going to have a beautiful trend line down. We recommend upping the sophistication every single time in order to get them to prepare to ward off real advanced attacks. But look, even though your scenarios are a little bit all over the place, the green trend line is your rate of user reports. So these are people that have been conditioned to spot suspicious email, that are reporting it to your IT organizations as quick, and if not quicker, then they're falling for that. So that is absolutely a win for you. So what we want to do is show that, hey, you've done it. You've built an army of people that are aware of phishing. They've demonstrated they can find it, and they can tell you about it quickly. That is gold. That is a new source of intelligence that you didn't have before inside of your own network. And the story repeats itself over and over again. If you look at customers that have Reporter installed, the rate of user reports far outpaces the people that are falling for that. So is phishing awareness the problem? I have a hard time believing that it is, especially in the modern era when we're hearing about hospitals falling victim to phishing attacks, Home Depot, Sony, it's just in the news constantly. But I live in a bubble. I live and eat and breathe phishing, so there's a possibility that awareness isn't a problem. So I said, you know what, we're just going to do a study. We're going to commission a study, and we're going to target it at people that work in email all day, so office workers, who are not inside the IT organization and are not in the security department. And we're going to ask them one question: are you aware of phishing? And depending on how they respond, we're going to ask some follow-up questions to that. So, the study goes on. Phishing is a term described to describe a deceptive email designed to infect your computer or steal your passwords. Were you aware of that before reading this definition? 15.6% they said they were not aware of that. So, we do have some work to do. 76% said that they were aware of what phishing is. At least these are people who are being honest. I mean, it's an anonymous survey. Hopefully people were able to admit when they don't do or don't. But and this is a small survey. We are going to do a much larger one. But what was interesting to me is, and what I assumed to be before even doing this, was the vast majority of office workers are aware of phishing. And how could they not be? You're getting so many communications about it, not only at work, but at home. From every credit card vendor and bank that you work with, you're getting warnings about phishing. All right. I know we got started a little bit late. We're running up on lunch. There will be no time for questions at the end of this presentation, but I will be at our booth if you want to talk to me later. So then we asked some follow-up questions. And the results were a little bit mixed. Phishing emails contain attachments. Most believe that's true. They can take you to links to websites. Again, most believe that's true. Phishing emails ask you for information on a website. Most believe that's true. This one was a bit of a, do we have a real human on the end of this? Phishing emails come from people at my company. 30% of them said that's true. I was like, that's a bit of a head scratcher, unless they're actually doing phishing simulations at work. So that one was interesting to me. We also got some statistics on whether or not employees are told how to report phishing. Most are, but the vast majority of organizations are telling their employees to either forward it to the IT department or forward it to the spam alias at the organization, and which usually doesn't get human eyes on it. So the key findings were 70% of people were aware of phishing, and most employees have instructions on how to report suspicious email. But this doesn't really add up with the other statistic that we hear all the time, which is 90% of breaches start with phishing. So if people the majority are aware of phishing, but 90% of breaches are starting with phishing, maybe awareness isn't the problem. This is where I get a lot of sighs from my colleagues, because I'm actually suggesting something to them that is very hard to do, which is change human behavior. It's one of the most difficult things to do. And so when I suggest that they should have put any effort into it, it's like, I don't even want to hear that. I don't even want to hear that. And it is difficult to change human behavior. I know I have a history of cardiovascular disease in my family, yet I still went to the Brazilian steakhouse last night, even though I shouldn't have. Changing human behavior is hard. So the Verizon data breach report came out, and there was some discussion about it on Reddit. So I got on Reddit, and I joined in. And because the Verizon data breach report basically said, yeah, phishing's a problem. It's going to likely remain the top problem. And there were some information security engineers debating, so I chimed in just a puppy, just completely out of my element. And I said, hey, if you think conditioning humans to avoid phishing should be part of every organization's hygiene, I'll raise a beer and toast you. And this was what Coop's response to me was. I absolutely do not agree. You should be designing systems and networks that cannot be compromised via phishing attacks, trying to train a bunch of useless meat tubes to be competent. So unfortunately, I've heard this sentiment from a lot of information security engineers, and they desperately want to engineer the phishing problem away. And a lot of them are just frustrated, angry that we still have phishing as a problem in 2016. And the thing that you have to understand about security engineers is they want to engineer. And they don't really care about the human input into any system. They believe that this is an intellectual challenge, that they can create something that can't be defeated. Or they'll see a new phishing tactic, and they'll engineer a very specific solution to defend against that. Really, the fact that humans interact with data systems is a complete inconvenience to their perfect security engineering model and utopia that they'd like to build. But the unfortunate reality is data systems are for us to use, and it's not just an intellectual exercise to see if you can engineer the perfect system to keep bad guys out. So if we look at history, history shows that most of the time when we try to engineer a perfect system and we ignore the human is clever, and they'll figure out a way around it. The first slot machines were defeated with a coin and a string. All right, well, we're going to fix that. We're going to put optical sensors in these slot machines, and we're going to start to weigh these coins, and this will be a bulletproof system. And the way that slot machines actually pay out is the coins are going through a hopper, and depending on the amount of coins that pass through, it knows what the payout is, and then it stops spitting coins out. Sounds like a pretty foolproof system. Well, this guy made a device called a light wand or a monkey paw that was basically an LED on the end of a trigger that he would go up through the coin dispensary hopper, and it would blind the optical sensor, making it say that it wasn't done with the payout. So what this did is it had the unintended result of dumping all of the money out of the system. And if you look at information security, we are a road littered with examples in our own domain. But it's not just our own domain, it's everywhere. If you look at how email has evolved, you used to be able to send executables as attachments. Well, we figured out that was a bad idea. So what did attackers do? They sent screen share files, SCR files. Guess what? That's executable by your computer. Whoa, okay, we're going to block that. What did attackers do? Well, they're going to send zip files. Oh no, we're going to block zip files. What do attackers do next? they include a password for the zip file, and they put the password in the body of the email in order to get past those types of filters. Oh no, what are we going to do about that? Well, then attackers started sending cab files, which is also an archive system that Windows knows. So there's always this cat and mouse evolution. I wish that we can engineer the perfect system, but I accept the fact that we can't. So that guy on Reddit, he clearly designed this. He didn't see any problems with his gate here in the middle of the road. The malware sandbox is the same thing. If you look at the evolution of attacks and malware, this worked pretty good. The idea is an attachment would get analyzed, and if it reached out to something bad or did something nefarious on the computer, we would stop it. However, the attackers figured out, well, look for mouse movement. Look for the user to go to a website. Look at the system date. How many cores are on that system? It's a Core i7 with only one core processor devoted to it. Maybe it's a sandbox. So there has been constant evolution of sandbox evasion techniques for people that would love to solve the phishing problem with complete automated analysis. And I just accept the fact from my information security career that the attacker will always evolve around this. So when I hear vendors telling me that they stop phishing, my reaction is, well, sure you do. You stopped yesterday's fish, but what are you going to do about tomorrow's fish? Here's one that really angered them. This is called the business email compromise. And basically, it's an email impersonating executive management to a finance lead saying, hey, I need you to wire money to this account. Please go do that. And the information security engineer is like, whoa, where's the URL to analyze? Where's the attachment? There isn't one. Like, there's no domains they could have whitelisted, no application whitelisting, no sandboxing would have helped here. And this has caused billions of dollars in losses. In fact, one company, Ubiquity Networks, wired out $40 million because of this. So the security sandbox isn't going to stop this. Or how about this one? This one's very fresh. This one's hitting lots of HR departments right now. It's just an email to the HR department saying, hey, I need your W-2s for compliance reasons. Please mail them to me. And what are HR departments all across the United States doing right now? Copying and pasting the employees' W-2s and sending them to the attacker. Again, this is very low tech, and there's really nothing that information security engineering could have done to stop this. And this is plaguing multiple companies right now. I get a predictable response from a lot of my colleagues. It's the human. It's the dumb meat tube. Well, there's nothing we can do to fix that. So what do simulations do? People say, so you do awareness but better? Kinda. This is not a picture of Bernie Sanders. It's not. This guy, and I credit the CISO for Akamai for kind of turning me on to this. He did a lot of work in behavioral analysis, mostly to help marketing campaigns. And he was trying to figure out how humans make decisions. And what he did, after going through countless studies and meta-studies, is he realized, you know what, I'm going to characterize the brain and how we make decisions into two distinct ways. System one is defined as our intuitive brain process, and it operates automatically. And it's designed to help you avoid decision fatigue. Because every time we use a cognitive function and have to do analysis, it wears you out. And so your brain tries to protect you from that. It tries to help you identify patterns. And once it does identify a pattern, it tries to help you get through that as quickly and painlessly as possible. The other part of our brain that we use for a deliberate thinking process, he characterizes as system two. And he said anytime that something requires effort, a cognitive effort, your brain will switch into another mode of processing in order to deal with the challenging task. So he gave multiple examples in his book of intuitive brain, quick pattern matching, and then things that are system two, deliberate. So how many emails do we receive and have to deal with a day? Radicati did this study, and they do it every year. And unfortunately, the amount of emails that we have to cope with is going up. But on average, we receive around 71 legit emails a day, and we have to send about 41 emails a day. We must mentally discard 13 emails as junk or is not important. Assuming that we have a lunch break and a couple meetings that we have to attend, we perform 33 email-related tasks per hour. That's a lot. I mean, how many of you are supposed to be in a meeting paying attention? You're dialed in, but you're really looking at email trying to make sure you don't have much to deal with at the end of that meeting. So we are distracted, and we do have to do a lot of email-related tasks during the day. So I want you guys to consider the following. We're going to do some exercises in intuitive thinking and then deliberate thinking, the System 1 versus System 2. So here we go. Well, where'd that come from? I can deal with this, 1.s and 5 plus 5. As soon as that number popped up, we had to make the switch from System 1 to System 2, a more deliberate thinking process. We're going to do it again. All right, your brain detected that pattern. It knew what to do. It went into full System 1 during that. Now let's jolt it out of System 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to jolt it into System 2. As soon as that left popped up on the right side, the brain decided, wait a minute, this is not a pattern I can deal with. I need to use a different mode of thinking in order to cope with this. And so that transition was the transition that we needed to make to get into System 2 processing. So our System 1s and 2s are always active, and this is how we're trying to get through 33 email-related tasks per hour. And we have to be prepared to find those indicators that jolt us out of System 1 and System 2. And that's really what simulations do. They expose people to these concepts and these emotions and these events that attackers are using to get your employees to click on things and to give them practice in making that switch from System 1 and System 2. So this image right here, it should not trigger System 2. Nothing really out of the ordinary about this, nothing dangerous. This one should trigger System 2. This guy is running with scissors. That is dangerous. We should use a different mode of thinking when evaluating this picture versus this picture. Same with emails that we're interfacing in our inbox. So System 1 to System 2 success. I was talking about that business email compromise. And there was something, this went to our VP of Finance. It was impersonating our CEO. And there were a couple things about this. One, Rohit never is encouraging finance to send money, especially before a bill is due. And number two, something the attacker would not have known is our CEO just hates iPhones. I don't know, he's crazy. He loves Android. And this was sent from my iPhone. So our VP of Finance, he has a Samsung phone too. And he's like, something's not right. It was that thing that was not right, those two pieces of information, that changed his mode of thinking from System 1 to System 2. And he clicked that Report Phish Me button. So what you're saying is simulations create experiences using tactics similar to real phishing emails to jolt repetitive, lazy, intuitive cognitive functions into a deliberate thinking process that requires effort. This is why they don't allow me to do our marketing campaigns, because this is what I would put in the banner in our booth. But apparently that just doesn't roll off the tongue. So I want to tell you a quick story, and we're going to end and let you guys get some lunch. System 1 and System 2 switchover, it doesn't always work. That's why I think it's crazy that the DHS is actually suggesting that they fire people for falling for a phishing simulation, especially me sitting on the mountain of evidence that I have. So I was at DerbyCon in Louisville, Kentucky this past fall. I was staying at a modern hotel. It was Embassy Suites. It was just built. And it was very modern and contemporary. And I was just needing to get to the airport that morning. I was running a little bit behind. And I was running down the hallway, and I decided that, man, I really should go to the bathroom before I head over and go through security. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wow, this is a nice hotel. This is a really clean bathroom. It actually smells good in this bathroom. That's good for them. So now I'm washing my hands, and I'm realizing, no urinals in this bathroom. I guess that's just one of those modern bathrooms, and they're doing away with urinals, a new design element. And then I started looking around that bathroom, and I saw this contraption on the wall. I'm like, what is that? And it was at that point when I realized that I had made a critical mistake, that my System 1 was in full effect that morning, and it did no deliberate or higher cognitive functions, and that I was definitely in the women's bathroom, and I needed to figure out a way to get out of there quickly. So yeah, we can't expect that System 1 to System 2 transition to happen flawlessly every time. but we definitely need to exercise it. The security curmudgeon will say, but you admit some people will fail some of the time. And I'm like, they will, but look at the reporting metric. The vast majority of your people are accurately identifying and reporting phishing emails, and now you can do something about that. So that's it. If you guys want to talk about this more, I'll be at our booth. Please go get some lunch. Good news, you can go tell everyone out there that phishing awareness is solved, because I promise you your employees are aware of phishing. I can't promise you that they've been conditioned to avoid it. Thank you.